the auction house, an integral part of World of Warcraft throughout its expansions, but as it stands now, it's currently bad for the community. Now, you may be wondering, why is it bad for the community? As one who plays the auction house, I can sincerely say it is an extremely toxic environment. In the current state of the last in, first out, and if you don't believe me, well, let me explain. But first, we're gonna have to take a look at the previous iteration of it. And I don't mean the one that separated the Alliance and Horde and Neutral, or the further back that was per city. I am meaning the last version before switching to the new last in, first out auction house. Now, the old system had its flaws, especially with add-ons that came out that auto-posted for you and allowed you to undercut by 1 copper to get sold first, so your listing would always show. But you see, that old system allowed others to choose who they bought from, meaning there are some players who actually looked at the prices and said, "You're undercutting by 1 copper? I'll buy from the other person that you're undercutting." Which honestly gave you a choice of where your products came from for everything, not just gear, which is what we're limited to now. But it also let you avoid buying from bots and multi-boxers. Of course, you could try and say, but most people just grabbed whatever was first, or at the stack size they wanted and moved on. This is true, but still you had the options, unlike now. Now, with the old system out of the way, we look at today's auction house. They changed the auction house so it would be last in, first out, and items stacked, and you had no choice of the buyer in non-gear items for the most part. This change was done as a means to stop the undercutting by 1 copper that everyone was complaining about, and this still can happen and will happen. But this made things much worse. Essentially, this turned the auction house into an even more toxic environment than it once was, where the casuals have a hard time selling and those with lots of gold and time continue to gain. In other words, the rich get richer, poor get left out in the cold. And when those who have a hard time selling because they have a job or a family or life to deal with, they end up spending either money on tokens or spending time in the game, either skinning, fishing, or other stuff, getting very little gold. If they try to sell items in trade chat, they mostly get people telling them to stop spamming or go put it on the AH. And you also have those trolls that ask for buying it for 1 gold for everything. But the problem is they can't put it on the AH because it never sells. And if such players were to ask for some gold from the community, well, generally, the community will be toxic to them and call them out for being beggars or telling them to go get a job and so on. And it's essentially a no-win environment for the casual players. Though I personally not a casual player, but I have friends who are, and I see them struggling. Also, before I move on, I want to point out, yes, bots are in the markets, but usually in the gathering items, and also don't go calling others bots and do witch hunting. It's just harmful to others. Now you may be thinking, why are those with lots of gold and or time benefiting? Well, that is solely because of the system being last in, first out. You see, those with lots of time, such as myself, benefit because we can be consistently online and usually on a second account just cancel scanning with add-ons every few minutes or so. This makes it so only those who have lots of time as well, or those with lots of gold to throw around, are able to compete with you. This competition, though, it has no rules, which means these usually end up causing a confrontation since everyone playing the AH wants gold. But this also leads to things like being called a bot, harassment, stalking, rage whispers, spreading of slander, obstruction of the auction house via killing it or trying to cover it up with mounts and such, or even death threats, usually veiled in a form by using in-game items plus a character's name or words, and this is so Blizzard can't act upon it because it's in separate things. Also, some will even bypass the ignore system via character names directed at you or by other means. This is usually all done to try and aggravate you in every way possible so that they can make you do something or say something that is reportable so they can get you banned. This is part of why it is such a toxic environment and needs to change. You then combine this with the inflation of gold value, and you just have a recipe for disaster. The inflation of gold coupled with WoW tokens is why players are obsessed with getting more gold, and why we have things like the harassment and rage whispers and such going on. So we have lots of the time fighting between those who have lots of time and gold. And then you have the casual players over here just silently suffering and unable to sell items and just having a hard time buying even potions or legendary base items. With Dragonflight announced and work orders confirmed, you may think that this problem will just go away. I honestly wish I could be as optimistic about this as some of you are. But as one who has been a feral druid main, I do not think it will. And that is because of the views I have are somewhat jaded because of how Blizzard has treated feral druids. But here is where I think things will go. The orc orders will probably be for obtaining gear and other crafted materials that are usually soulbound. So you're getting soulbound items from other players finally. While the auction house will still be the place for everything else, all the BOEs, all the gathered supplies, and so on. This may fix casuals not being able to get gold currently, since they might be able to get some from work orders, since it is no longer only beneficial to those with a lot of time, assuming Blizzard gets it right. Because if Blizzard does not put a limit on how many work orders you can pick up, like at one time, those who are having lots of time on their hand will probably be just picking up one after the other, after the other, after the other, or all at the same time based on how the system is. If it's all at the same time, then no one really has a chance. And I think the amount of impact this will have on the auction house will fully depend on how the work orders will work. Like, how many can you pick up? What does it encompass? And what is the pricing format for it? So, it's really hard to tell if Dragonflight will do anything for this. Even if work orders do relieve some of this pressure, though, this toxic environment, it's only a stopgap measure of relief for it. But if that's the case, how do we fix the auction house? Well, Blizzard technically already has the means to fix this, and that is the pricing system they use for the WoW token. A set price driven by a value and how many are in stock compared to how many are getting bought ratio. If every item in the auction house were to change to this system, all they would need to do is add an algorithm that adjusts the price based on the demand compared to the supply and set an internal price that is based on what the devs think the item is worth, as well as the crafted items being added into any crafting costs that are in the base. And those crafting items prices are being taken directly from the auction house, and it cannot go below the dev price plus the material price cost of any crafted item. It would also then be selling from a random assortment of players instead of any first come, first serve basis or last in, first out or anything. Like, just have it random. And that means everyone has a chance to sell, and it makes it much more fair. This clearly would require a major system overhaul, though, and some auction house junkies will hate it. But for the sake of the game, it is one of the better options I personally could think of. A system like this would be beneficial to more casual player base, only slightly hurting the other ones, and it kind of stops bots from controlling the markets to some degree. It would also be stopping those so-called auction house flippers who post things at like 1 silver and try to take advantage of other players who don't pay attention. The downside is it's still possible if you have enough gold, you can keep the demand high and the supply low, increasing the price on items, but maybe that is a good thing in the long run. So what do you think? Would you like this system for an auction house? If not, do you have a better idea? If so, leave a comment below. Let those who also watch this video be the judge. Even though you watch this video, your gold value is probably still in the red, but so is that sub button, and both will stay that way for now. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!